Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scot McKay.
Greetings, gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. My name is Scot McKay, at Scot McKay on both Clubhouse and on Twitter, Real Scot McKay on Instagram. The YouTube goodies can be found by searching my name, S-C-O-T with one T. That's very important. Otherwise, you're going to get someone else. S-C-O-T-M-C-K-A-Y on YouTube. And the website is mountaintoppodcast.com. Hope you'll visit. Got some new things up there for you. And gentlemen, if you haven't yet joined our thriving Facebook group, you can find that at the Mountaintop Summit on Facebook. All right, guys, here we go. Third time on the show. Hope it's a charm. As a matter of fact, the fourth time on the show is going to be the week following this show for our returning guest, none other than Helena Nista from Down Under in Australia. And you guys just love her. It's always a treat to have her on. Helena, how's it going?
Really, really good. Such a joy to be back.
Yeah, you know what the guys love about you? I get this feedback about you and your work all the time. Not only
please tell me.
Well, you'll like it. It's all good. Not only are you unoffendable, I mean, we can ask you any question about just about any area of human sexuality. You're very feminine, you're very personable and very likable as you give very knowledgeable answers. You wrap all that up into a podcast episode and it's always high quality content. So, I'm really happy you're here and excited to see where this conversation goes because it all started when this is all your fault, Nista.
Oh, okay.
You posted a video.
What have I done?
You posted this video on YouTube with the very infamous title of Big Dick Energy versus Small Dick Energy. And
yes.
I watched it and it was amazing. And I knew right then and there I had to have you on to talk about it. So I indeed watched your video on this. And guys, I'll link you to the video in the show notes. And it seems like you're talking rather figuratively about this topic. So tell us a little bit about how you define this big dick energy versus small dick energy, first of all.
Sure. Big dick energy is an energy thing, as the title indicates. It's not actually about having a sizable appendage or not so sizable one. Nothing to do with that. It basically describes a man who walks around as kind of knowing that he is a great lover, that he knows how to satisfy a lady. The name came from the fact that, a man who would typically have a sizable sausage would walk around with that kind of deep sense of self-acceptance and self-confidence and self-reassurance that he's got the nature gifted him in a way that he can be a gift to women. Now, the truth is, it's not actually about the size. It is purely the energy. So it is, big dick energy is an energy of a guy who has that kind of deep knowing of himself. He is peaceful. He's grounded. He's not arrogant. It's not about being arrogant. He knows his value and he knows that he brings value with him to a woman.
All right. So now you basically just presented two kind of contradictory ideas there, Helena. So we're going to need to drill down on this. No pun intended.
Okay.
You said it has nothing to do with the size of a man's appendage. Yet this is how a man may act when he does have such a sizable appendage.
Exactly.
How do you reconcile those 2 points?
First of all, because the size is relative. So a man can feel like he is well endowed when he's actually smaller than a different guy who hasn't got any big dick energy because he just doesn't believe in himself or has got other sort of issues that hold him back from having that kind of confidence and that kind of peaceful energy. So first of all, it's a relative thing. Some guys are bigger than others. Some guys with relatively small cocks have actually a lot of BDE, and others who have a big one don't have any. So in that way, it can maybe sound contradictory in that way, but that's why I want to make this very, very, very clear that it's not about the size. It's not like you have a maybe below average cock, and hence you're not able to have a big dick energy. You absolutely can. Even women can walk around with a big dick energy. It is purely about deciding in yourself or recognizing in yourself that you have value, that you are worthy of respect of other people, that you bring value with you, that you can make your partner very, very happy in the bedroom and outside the bedroom. And hence it's more about your awareness and deeper knowing of self, plus a decision whether you're going to adopt that big dick energy or not.
Now, before we dive into the main point there, which is obviously more important, as a bit of an aside, I've never heard anyone describe a woman as having big dick energy and have it be a compliment.
Okay.
At least not here in the United States. It's kind of like she's sort of a bull in a china shop and has a lot of masculine energy and is kind of a butch, and people kind of don't look highly upon her. It's almost as if she's trying to be a man instead of being a woman who's empowered and smart, intelligent in her own way. But anyway, like I said, that was an aside. So if I understand you correctly, based on the question I just asked you, Helena, it's really kind of a two-part answer. There's kind of two sides to this coin. First of all, you know, it does have a lot to do with a guy's perception of his ability to be a satisfactory individual. And as Freudian as it sounds, a lot of that may have to do with some latent or even blatant sexual feeling of we can satisfy a woman or not, because, you know, sexuality is kind of core to our purpose. And a lot of guys do derive a lot of their self-esteem or even, you know, their ego about it. And of course, we talked about ego recently on this show. But one thing you said that kind of came out of left field, and I wasn't really ready for it, was this idea that a lot of it has to do with how men perceive their own penis size. And this is a huge issue for guys. Some guys are either average to slightly large and think they're just tiny, or other guys may think, hey, you know what, man, I'm packing something really awesome here, when really they're just average at best. I think most men would fall on the former end of the spectrum instead of the latter, but it really is interesting nonetheless how men often wrap so much of their self-esteem up in their ability to sexually satisfy a woman, right?
Exactly. And you really hit the nail on the head here with
again,
with
no
that
pun
point.
intended.
That's right.
I love to mess with you, Helena, because it's so easy and fun.
That's okay. That's absolutely fine with me.
And you're such a good sport, right? Yeah. Go ahead. I didn't mean to break your concentration a la Samuel L. Jackson, so completely go ahead, for sure.
Okay. No problem. So this is actually why I made a video not so long ago about an average or standard penis size, because so many men are confused about this. So many men watch porn that shows gentlemen with particularly large penises, and that's on purpose. That's because the porn stars are typically chosen for their larger than average size. But if that's all you see, if you don't really compare yourself to your friends at work, which is, we know, not quite inappropriate.
No,
exactly.
Especially hard.
So that's why so many men think that they are below average and that they are small, and hence their confidence suffers. So even if they are perfectly average, which huge majority of men out there are absolutely in that average size category, which is plenty satisfying to women. And then that leads these men to thinking they are below average, they are too small, they won't be able to satisfy a lady, and hence they do not sport BDE regardless of their actual size and abilities. And that's why it is more in the head than in the pants. Got
it. Now, you were expecting me to say no pun intended again, weren't you? But I didn't. See what I did there? I bypassed it completely.
Well done.
There are only several unintended puns allowable per episode. We got next week. There are more to come there. We'll save it all up for that. All right. So, you know, just as a quick message to these guys out there, if you're watching porn and thinking to yourself, hey, you know what? I'm not doing really all that badly down under after all. You're probably doing a lot better than you think if you watch porn and aren't getting an inferiority complex. Correct?
Exactly. Correct.
So next question. All right. Big dick energy is composed of what elements? I mean, you've mentioned a few of them kind of offhand, but I really want to clarify this. And then after you tell us what big dick energy looks like, how about we talk about what small dick energy looks like by comparison and what the components of that might be?
Exactly. So I really see sort of two main components, which the first one is that kind of peaceful, deep inner knowing that I am absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I bring value. I deserve respect. I am a valuable and worthy human being. And the other part of that is the sexual confidence, the fact that I can satisfy my woman. I know what to do in the bedroom. My size is enough to satisfy a lady, and hence, regardless of the actual size. And so I am a good lover. So these two sort of parts play into this.
So the words I would use to describe the elements you just described would include swagger.
Okay.
Confidence that really enables us to inspire confidence in other people. In other words, not only do we have a sense of our own competence, but other people pick up on that, and perhaps we're a little bit better a leader because of it, or a lot bit. There's a quiet confidence to this big dick energy. I'm not trying to prove anything to you. I'm not trying to show off. I'm not saying, hey, look at me. I'm convinced that my actions will speak more broadly and loudly and definitively than any of my words or any of my flailing of my arms or sounding of sirens to try to get attention.
Absolutely.
There's also this element that you're describing that to me sounds a lot like being over oneself. I know I'm impressive. I don't have anything to prove to you. If you don't like me, okay, you have that prerogative. I'm not going to get all butthurt. I'm unoffendable, basically. So this quiet masculine resolve that I am competent. I know what I'm doing. I have the ability to freaking make something happen and come through in the clutch and succeed. Together conspire to give this big dick energy. But again, it's not arrogant. It's not like I drive a 4x4 pickup truck with 38-inch, tires and a lift kit and, the balls hanging from the bumper, like Kenny Powers. And eastbound and down. I don't have to do those things. There's no need to prove anything to anybody else, right?
Exactly. It's not about being a dick. It's not about, exactly trying to and pushing and proving. You know inside of yourself that you're absolutely fine, and that sort of radiates from you.
Okay, so what does small dick energy look like by comparison?
It's basically a lack of a big dick energy. Where a man is uncertain of himself and he kind of has that kind of contracted small energy. It can almost feel like, don't look at me, I'm not that great. I am, these men can apologize a lot for themselves, explain themselves a lot and to make up for their perceived maybe flaws. And so they don't radiate a sense of self-acceptance and self-love.
Okay, I think that's fair enough. You're kind of saying these shy guys who are sort of shrinking violets and wallflowers and oh boy, those are two terms we generally use for women, right? They don't embrace their masculine energy thereby.
Exactly.
That's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they really want others. Maybe they want others to reassure them, and that's why they are the way they are. They are, apologizing and explaining, etc. And that's that thing is that there's a lot of guys out there like that who, for whatever reasons, feel like there is something missing in them. And then they are not as good as the other guy that they see, around somewhere. So a lot of people lack self-love and self-acceptance. And this is particularly strongly seen when you compare this kind of BDE energy versus lack of BDE. That's why when somebody comes across and they have BDE, it almost shocks us into paying attention because it feels charismatic, because so many people walk around without it, whereas they could perfectly fine cultivate and develop it in themselves.
I love that you have acronyms for this. BDE, SDE, big dick energy, small dick energy. That's just beautiful. I'm glad you mentioned those other elements because those are kind of along the lines with the first thoughts that I wrote down in preparation for this show. A guy with small dick energy is generally someone who's insecure. And that may manifest itself not necessarily with just fading off into the distance and not saying anything, but sometimes the opposite maybe of trying too hard to impress other people, being an approval seeker, losing your cool and kind of acting like an immature, petulant child when someone doesn't approve of you or when someone picks on you, kind of like the kid who just explodes into an angry frenzy whenever he's bullied or picked on at school, and therefore that just increases the amount of bullying that's destined to happen to this person. That would be small dick energy. Being butthurt, being easily offended, and you disrespected me. This is when other men will look at that guy and go, man, this guy's got the small dick energy thing working. And along with that, I would say it's amazing how it's usually men who judge other men in this regard, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the kind of phraseology that men use many times to insult other men. Like, dude, you got small dick energy, or, they'll whisper to each other, this guy's got a small dick. You know what I mean? When they're acting this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Not very nice. Not very kind or compassionate.
It's either an outward expression of an internal sense of adequacy or an outward expression of an internal sense of inadequacy.
That's right.
Awesome. Okay.
That's right. And what bugs me about this is that so many of my clients and other people that come to me or send me questions, they just feel like I just don't have this, so I can't have it. I can't develop it because this is just who I am. A lot of people write to me, or whenever I work with clients, that issue comes up as well. A lot of people say that they just don't have it. It's just not who they are, so they cannot create it. It's just not going to happen for them. And what I really don't like about this is that this is absolutely false. Your personality, who you are, is just a set of habits you've been repeating. Habits of thought, habits of behavior, habits of feelings and emotions. This is who we are. This is what our personalities are. We can shape those. We can cultivate qualities that we want to see in ourselves or that we appreciate and admire in others. We absolutely can become sort of a fuller expression of who we truly want to be. So this idea that this is not who I am, so I could never be this, I could never have a big dick energy because this is not who I am, is absolutely false. And particularly if you feel frustrated in yourself, or, because if you don't have BDE and you're perfectly happy with your life, there's nothing you need to do. It's not like everybody needs to have a BDE. They absolutely don't. But if you feel like you don't have it, and hence you feel frustrated with yourself, or your life isn't as fulfilling as you would like it to be, or your romantic life isn't quite where you want it to be, and you feel like having a BDE would help, but unfortunately you have it, so tough luck. No, I want to say to you, no, you can actually cultivate it. Anybody can cultivate it and create it in themselves.
How would you describe the relationship between big dick energy and small dick energy compared to what is commonly known as short man syndrome or a Napoleon complex? Because that's something a lot of guys who feel they're shorter than average suffer from. And yet there's also a deal where when guys are rather tall, that can contribute to their swagger in a number of ways also. Now, kind of to load the question up front for you, I think there are some key differences. But I would love to hear your thought on this.
Really, there's definitely sort of similarities between them, but I feel like the height is more in your face. So it almost a guy who isn't very tall will almost try to overcompensate with his other qualities. And I had an experience with somebody like that not so long ago, when he, to be honest, just gave me a huge headache because he was trying to overcompensate for his lack of height by being really full on energetically, by talking nonstop, by telling me all of these stories, bragging about all of these different aspects of his life. And to be honest, I didn't have a problem with his height at all. I just found his personality so full on, and his attempt to convince me how great he was, I'm assuming because he felt that I might concentrate too much on his height. And so the whole experience was absolutely not what I wanted it to be, or what he wanted it to be, because it was just way too tiring and way too full on, way too in my face. I don't feel like a guy with a small dick energy would probably be as full on, because his insecurity is not so much in your face. So that would be probably the main difference. But yeah, I haven't really thought about this before. I'm curious what you have on mind.
Well, I'm not a very tall guy myself. Yeah, I'm not a very tall guy myself. So I've been on this journey personally in life. You said something that I think is extremely key. And any guy who's listening who is either average height or shorter than average and feels kind of insecure or uptight about it, I hope they heard what you just said, because you spoke for a lot of women. Maybe not all, but a lot when you said it. It wasn't so much the guy's height that bothered you. It was how he felt about his height that was so bothersome.
Exactly.
So if the guy could get over not being so tall himself, then it's far more likely women won't see it as a problem either.
Mm.
I've been telling these guys this for years, and some guys just won't believe it. They'll go find peer-reviewed studies even that say, oh, height is the number one thing women look for when they're looking for a guy. And yet, in the real world, you can take your peer-reviewed study and shove it, because it just hasn't been true after I saw the light here and realized that if I act like a masculine big four man, women are going to be okay with that and be attracted to it. And, you know, I've been asked in interviews before, do you think you'd be better with women if you were 6'2"? And the answer is I have no idea, because I never have been, and I've never really given it much thought. So I've never had time really to lament that lost level of expertise had I been taller. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Now, after all these years of coaching, I've also encountered men who are very tall. And surprisingly to some shorter guys, they are either self-conscious of their height because they feel like they're too tall and they have to kind of crouch down to be on the same level as everybody else so they don't stick out in public. Or perhaps contrary to that, they go through life with tall guy syndrome, which is, hey, I'm going to get what I want by manhandling everybody, intimidating them, lacking self-awareness. So I'm elbowing normal height people at parties and stuff like that and really not giving a rat's ass about it because, hey, I'm the tall guy, deal with it. And yet I've noticed that when guys who are, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", kind of get this real true big dick energy of being over themselves, they take everybody as they come, they respect everybody, and they become just more likable people. So you can actually have tall guy syndrome and small dick energy at the same time, which is perhaps ironic, and yet maybe perhaps the non-ironic part of this, ergo the expected part, is usually when guys have that Napoleon complex who are a little on the short side, they're also coming off as having small dick energy, which is unfortunate. Yet when a guy can have big dick energy as a small man, or, at least an undersized guy, it's amazing how people forget he's short. And the examples abound, in both celebrity and politics. I mean, Ross Perot ran for president and did quite well and was a multi-billionaire, and he was only about 5'4". So there are lots of examples of guys who have big dick energy, even though, they're not very tall guys. They got over the short man syndrome or never suffered from it at all. So a lot of this is about stopping the act of being our own worst enemy and embracing the kind of guy who's really going to be more attractive,
Exactly. That is such an excellent point. It is really life is what we make it. And the way that other people will perceive us is mainly through our own lenses, because how we feel about ourselves radiate others, to others through our actions, our words, the way that we hold our bodies, the way that we speak about ourselves, and the way that we express ourselves or shy away from expressing ourselves. And so most of the society, most of the people that we speak to don't have enough awareness to really see what's behind those actions and words, to really see who you are as a human being. And they will just take your own actions and words and the way you hold yourself as a man as this is who he is. And the truth is, these are your perceptions that you have created about yourself, regardless of how valid or true they are, and that you are now showing or giving others as your personality, as who you are as a person. And it is actually not that hard to change any of the aspects of yourself that you're not happy with or that you feel like aren't really true to your fullest expression of your humanity, your masculinity, etc.
Well, I want to hear more about that. But before we do, I want to go ahead and make another point that is, again, kind of a minor aside. I think sometimes the trappings we surround ourselves with in life can either contribute to the sense of people finding us to have big dick energy or small dick energy. And I think sometimes it's very confusing to figure out what those are and what those aren't. For example, I grew up on the East Coast in the United States during the 80s when there weren't a whole lot of full-size pickup trucks on the road unless there was a need for one in a person's life. And whenever a small guy drove a full-size pickup truck, he was laughed at for having small dick energy or overcompensating, which is a word you used. And yet now that I live here in Texas, I live in suburbia and there's a full-size pickup truck in every driveway, regardless of the dude's height who lives there. So I think how this manifests itself in terms of how you look and how you're perceived has sort of a societal element to it as well that we need to have some self-awareness about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And what might be needed is maybe to see a therapist or a counselor or a coach or somebody who can help you see you from with other people's eyes, because that can be the trickiest thing of all, to actually recognize where you might be cutting yourself short when it comes to your personality and your self-expression. We don't see ourselves the way that other people see us, or that, we might not see where we are insecure or anxious, etc. So that's where somebody else's help can be really helpful here, or somebody else's insight. But once we know, or once we start to recognize, oh, I act this way, or I kind of shrink around certain people, or I never speak up for myself in this kind of situations, why am I not more assertive in times that call for it, etc. That's when we can start working on it. That's when we can start turning that around. But you need to have the awareness first. Without it, you won't be able to shift anything.
I think we know when we lack that kind of assertive power and confidence as a man, but whether we feel like we want to do anything about it has a lot to do with our confidence to be more courageous to do something about it. So it's kind of like, if I'm going to do something about it, I know what I got to do, but it's simple but not easy. It's easier said than done to take the first couple steps. So what I might recommend to men is they start off with small baby steps, as it were. Be a little more assertive in places where it could be a little safer to be assertive, like when correcting an order that you made while ordering a sandwich or something like that, instead of standing up to this guy who is a big bully and that feeling like it would be a little bit more difficult for you to do right now. Or just having a conversation with a woman without a fear that she's going to reject you for whatever reason, for no good reason, and just see how those go. And maybe you'll build your confidence and your big dick energy and your swagger, as it were, to have the confidence to start asking for phone numbers and take women out on dates with great expectations instead of negative ones, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to start. Those kind of
for sure.
Smaller stake situations that can lead to more courage and more ability to be more assertive.
So there's an elephant in the room here, Helena. Penis size has to matter in life, or else there wouldn't be this polarization of energy depending on it. I mean, you very graciously said that, hey, if you don't have the largest appendage in the world, you can still satisfy a woman. But, the whole idea of having a big, large penis is so ingrained in our culture that guys will spend thousands of dollars in hopes that they can just get a half inch or an inch more in size or girth. And it almost seems to me, I'm not ready to make a definitive call on this right now in public on this podcast because, frankly, I've seen evidence to the contrary. But it seems almost as if penis size is more important to us as men than it is to the women we're trying to satisfy, which at baseline means it is still important, even if it is important mostly to us. So without perhaps denigrating the guys who have smaller than average penises and saying, women really are addicted to big penises and become almost drunk sexually with a guy who has a large penis, is it that the larger penis is making the man more sexually confident and therefore he's the better lover because it's in his brain, not in the woman's perception?
Yeah, absolutely. This whole idea that a great cock is something that every single woman would want and desire, and that would just be enough to make her life a paradise, that is a very, very faulty idea. That's absolutely incorrect. First of all, we all have different needs and desires when it comes to sex. Some women have very sort of short vaginal canals. And for such women, a big cock is actually, can be a nightmare because it can be painful or tricky to accommodate him.
You can be too big as a man, can't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly.
Right.
At the same time, there is a percentage of women that have fairly long vaginal canals. Those women want a bigger guy. But that's not all the women. That's not every single woman out there. And so equating the big cock with absolute female sexual satisfaction is incorrect. Because that's not even what women most desire or what is most satisfying to women. It's not about penetration. Penetration is a big part of it. But what really does it for majority of women is the clitoris. Plus, beautiful full body stimulation and, touching the different parts of the body. But, if you really want her to be orgasming like crazy in your arms, you need to pay a lot of attention to her clitoris instead of pounding her like a porn star.
I think you could have reasonably just simplified that thought to paying more attention to her, period. Because that's where most guys fail right there. As soon as you start paying attention to a woman's sexual pleasure, you're going to be a great lover no matter what.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Here's a weird objective sex question that I don't think I've ever heard asked anywhere else. And I'm on the edge of my seat waiting for your answer. Okay. Would women who are small down there, and some women do have what guys would typically call a coin slot pussy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would women who are small down there likely have had small penises were they born men? And the reason I ask is look at the societal focus on small vaginas, tight vaginal canals for women that turn men on versus the idea of a large penis penetrating it. Where it seems like it's got to be genetic, whether you're small down there or large down there. So all these women with the desirable female parts, if they have brothers, are those guys probably a little smaller than average? I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, but I don't feel like there is a correlation there because it is not just about the genes. It's not just genetic. There are so many things that will make pussy small and tight. And one of them, is actually muscle tension. If she's quite tense, if maybe there can be trauma in her past that, holds those muscles kind of more contracted. Look, when we talk about a tight pussy, basically, especially in a sexual scenario, it's a pussy that is engorged. When a man is penetrating a woman and that's the healthy situation. When he's penetrating her and he feels like she's just so tight and there is so much friction and so much pleasure and happening there, it is because she's engorged, meaning she's having a female erection. Her pussy, there's a lot of erectile tissue there. And when she's aroused, a lot of blood rushes in there. And so her different parts will become sort of swollen and engorged because of that. And this will give her pussy this feeling of being tight, and small.
Well, some women have physically smaller vulvas than others. And it seems like many times guys find that particularly attractive. I mean, it's a subjective thing for guys. It's a matter of taste, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly. So we are all different. All pussies are different. Vaginas are different. The reason why I also mentioned that unhealthy situation where there's a lot of tension in her pussy is because that also can feel for him like it's nice because she feels tight. But for her, that is not going to be a great situation because there's just a lot of tension being held in her pussy. And that can be caused by mainly past trauma where she is basically penetrated in an uncomfortable or painful way. And over time, those muscles just start to contract to, I guess, protect her from the discomfort of penetration. So she's not going to really have a great time during sex.
I think that's a valid point, and I appreciate you making that. We're about to the end of our time here, so just a couple quick thoughts. First of all, gentlemen, the size of your penis doesn't have much to do with how tall or how short you are. It's a lot like women and breasts. Women who are rather petite can have large boobies. It can happen. A lot of times women might be surprised when they get naked with a guy who isn't so tall because he's actually rather well endowed down there. And sometimes the opposite is true as well. And man, I would love for all women to know that. I know this isn't a women's show, but I want to encourage some guys with that. So, some guys who feel a little shorter than average may have reason to feel sexual confidence where even a tall guy wouldn't, simply because of the aforementioned reason of men tend to really place a premium on penis size. So that could contribute to a guy who isn't so tall having BDE energy more readily than perhaps some other guy of average or taller height. The other thing I want to mention before we close is, listen, all you guys out there, just put the kibosh once and for all on feeling insecure or having schadenfreude towards other men who are better with women than you are right now because, quote unquote, they must have a big dick or something. Women have no idea what you're packing when you go up and introduce yourself to them, when you talk to them, and when you go on the first date with them. So whether she's attracted to you or not enough to go out with you and start digging on you has nothing to do with your penis size because you haven't gotten naked with her yet. So I felt like that was something that needed to be said here, or else I would have left it on the table. So if you have any comment on that, go for it, Helena. Otherwise, I'm going to send these guys to your YouTube channel.
Yeah, great point. And I love it how you really brought it home here. That's really what matters.
Yeah.
And for a woman, she's going to pay particular attention to your aspects of your personality. Are you kind? Are you warm? Are you protective, caring, funny, etc.? She's not going to reject or accept you based on your cock size. So forget about that.
Generally the truth, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And be the most wonderful, expansive version of yourself you can be. And you'll be much more successful with the ladies.
Right on. Good stuff. Her name is Helena Nista. She's originally from Poland, but now she lives down under on the Gold Coast of Australia. You can find her on YouTube by going to a special URL that I've set up, which is mountaintoppodcast.com/Nista, Nista. Okay. And guys, go check out her YouTube videos. She's very friendly and pretty and personable. You're going to love the advice she gives you. You've already figured out she's very man friendly. She just loves guys as much as we love women, and wonderful things in general are happening there at the YouTube channel of Helena Nista for you guys. Thank you so much, Helena, for joining us. And won't you come back for next week also? We got another topic that's pretty fresh stuff for these guys.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Scott.
Yeah, and guys, go ahead and head on over to mountaintoppodcast.com. Hey, sign up for my free daily newsletter. In it, you'll find fluff-free advice on how to be better with women, be a better man. And you can also get a chance to sign up and talk to me for free for 25 minutes or more if you need to about where you are right now and what it's going to take here in the year 2022 to get the right woman in your life. Guys, a lot of you have some bad, bitter feelings towards women that really don't have to stay that way. We get you in front of some women who like you for who you are. You change that energy from negative to positive and watch positive things happen in your life, especially with women, rather than negative. It all starts when we talk free for 25 minutes. Also, be sure to visit our wonderful, generous sponsors, Origin in Maine and Heroes Soap. Use the coupon code MOUNTAIN10 with either of those sponsors, and you can find the links to both on mountaintoppodcast.com as well. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scot McKay from X&Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X&Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.